Morning in progress. Yes.
All right, I'm gonna call to order. Meeting for this Pleasant Hill School Board, Monday, May 20th. I'm gonna start off with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. It's been a minute since I've read the mission statement, so I'll go ahead and read it this evening. Our mission is to graduate all students with high levels of academic and personal achievement, ready for post-secondary excellence and prepared for productive, compassionate citizenship through research-based instruction and collaborative system of support. Any changes or additions to the agenda? No. Okay. 3.0 introductions and attendance. Nobody in the audience. We do have our illustrious budget committee with us this evening. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. We definitely appreciate it. Also, as always, glad to have our admin team here with us this evening. Thank you for coming. Brings us to 4.0 public forum. For individuals who are on site during this portion of the board meeting, members of the public are specifically invited to present items of commendation and or concerns. At the discretion of the board chair, further public participation may be allowed at the time specific agenda items are under consideration by the board. District policy BDDH. For those viewing online, the school district posts upcoming agenda on our website, pleasanthill.k12.or.us, the Friday before regularly scheduled Monday school board meetings. This will allow for public comment prior to the board meeting. Please click on the tab provided to share your comments for the school board to consider at the upcoming meetings. Personnel matters may not be discussed in public at a school board meeting. Members of the public who have personnel concerns or accommodations should share them directly with the district superintendent, Mr. Chris. Okay. Seeing nobody in the audience, we'll move on to 5.0. Oh, I should ask any, I assume you'll share that with us in advance, but I'd still like to ask. Presentation and recognition, 5.1, student of the month, most improved student of the month.
Howdy. Good to be here. So you're stuck with me. Congratulations to our most improved high school students of the month of April, freshman Blake Bender, sophomore Eliana Altamirano, junior Jace Harris, and senior Nate Curtis. The high school student of the month, freshman Sari Strins, sophomore Colby Hampton, junior Kendall Carey, and senior Katrina Biggs.
Congratulations. We don't have our high school student representative with us this evening, unfortunately. We'll move on to 6.0 action items. 6.1 is the consent agenda. Need to similarly had a chance to review that in advance, and I'll hear motions regarding the consent agenda for this evening.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. 6.2, approve the 2024-2025 designation of district officers, clerks, depositories, and contract renewal board. Resolution 2324.139.
All right, So your RS requires the governing body to designate at the beginning of each fiscal year, the individuals who have authorization to act as the district officers and clerks to designate financial institutions the district uses for the investment of funds and review the status of and rules adopted by the local public contract review board. This exhibit designates the following budget officer, clerks of the district, custodians of funds, public contract rules, grant officer, and repositories of funds. If you look at the next exhibit designation, so budget officer designates superintendent as budget officer of the Pleasantville School District for the fiscal year 24-25. District clerks designate superintendent of Pleasantville School District as chief administrative officer and clerk for the fiscal year 24-25. Designating Terry Lombardo as business manager for the 24-25 fiscal year. And be resolved that adequate insurance coverage to be obtained for the above named clerk and deputy clerk to conform to the ORS 332-2525. Grant officer designate the superintendent and or the business manager as local agency representatives and authorize them to execute and file applications for and on behalf of the district and otherwise act as the district's representative in all activities related to grants for fiscal year 24-25. Public contract review. Designate the board of directors of its own contract review board, granted authority under ORS 279A.060, and also adopts the current Oregon Authority General's Model Public Contracts Manual, stipulated by ORS 279A, 279B, 279C, and OER 137, Division 46, 47, 48, and 49. Investment depositories. Designate that the following depositories are hereby approved as the official depositories of Pleasantville School District for the 24-25 fiscal year. Banner Bank and the local government investment pool, and be resolved that the superintendent or the business manager as custodian of funds are authorized to establish accounts and to issue checks against such accounts bearing the original signature of the superintendent or business manager in accordance with ORS 328.411 and 328.445. The recommendation is recommended the board of directors approve the exhibits designated district officers, clerks, and agents, including the depositories for the district funds as listed on the attached document for the 24-25 fiscal year.
All questions, all hear motions. I move that we approve the designation of the district officers, clerks, and depositories, stated from the superintendent.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Passes unanimously. 6.3, approve 2024-2025 property liability insurance, workers' compensation insurance, section 125 benefits.
So property and casualty insurance, designate property and casualty coverage for education, PACE as the district's liability insurance carrier, designate WHA Way Insurance as the agent of record. Workers' compensation insurance, designate Safe Corporation as the district's workers' compensation carrier, section 125 benefits plan carrier, designate American Fidelity Securities Incorporated as section 125 plan administrator. It is recommended the board of directors approve the exhibit designated district property and liability insurance carrier, insurance agent of record, workers' compensation carrier, and workers' benefit plan carrier for the 24-25 fiscal year.
Then before, if we have any other questions or comments, I'll hear motions.
To approve the report of property and liability insurance with compensation insurance section 125 benefits resolution 2324-140.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. 6.4, approve 2024-25 designation of district legal counsel and municipal auditor.
So Oregon revised statutes requires a governing body to designate at the beginning of each fiscal year the individual and or firms who will have authorization to act as the district's legal counsel and auditors. Legal counsel designate the Hungerford Law Firm LLP as legal counsel for the General Counsel, Labor Relations and Special Education Services for the fiscal year 24-25. Designate the Oregon School Board Association Policy and Legal Services for the fiscal year 24-25. Designate Law Office of Mike Reeder as legal counsel for land use and boundary services regarding Jasper Neutron Development for the fiscal year 24-25. And for the municipal auditor, designate Acuity LLC as the official auditor for the fiscal year 24-25. It is recommended the Board of Directors approve the exhibit designated district agents as listed on the attached documents for the 24-25 fiscal year.
Last time, there's no questions or concerns, I'll hear motions.
Move to approve the 24-25 designation of district legal counsel and municipal auditor. Resolution 2324.141.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Passed unanimously. All right. We will recess into the budget meeting. So this is where I hand over the gavel to
Gotta pick a chair for you. Gotta pick a chair. Yes.
will you give it?
Gotta-
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah, it is. The chair. Gotta foresee the.
I wondered about that, and I didn't see it listed here.
It's a snare.
I get it.
We're on it.
Less than away from like it's hot.
Yeah, you're the first person. I'm gonna look at your friend. He didn't tell me today that he warned me. He did, I was like, what?
Well, I don't have the gavel, but
I got
we'll. Well, the budget committee, I didn't think that I did that, but. And we'll move on to nominating, and electing officers for the budget committee. We have any nominations for chair?
Gonna nominate Bill. Second.
Any further discussion?
I feel like the gal is far away. We need to discuss that. That's never hard. Problem solving. Problem solving.
All those in favor? Aye.
None.
All right, we'll hear nominations for vice chair. Waiting for Rich to get his revenge on there, picking the high road.
Happy with whoever. You need vice too. If you want to. No. I can't nominate myself. Since I got Daryl. Yes, Daryl. Yep. I like to nominate Daryl on basis of character and.
I'll second that. All right. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Go away, sir.
All right, you got one. No, here. Here, yeah. Item 3.0, reading of the budget message.
All right. We're on page 3 of your budget document, following along. Dear members of the Pleasant Hill School District community, I'm here to present the proposed budget for the 24-25 fiscal year for the Pleasant Hill School District. This budget has been carefully crafted for reflection on past year's priorities and in alignment with our current district priorities. The proposed budget reflects a total of $20,990,642 for the general fund and a total of $30,353,289 for all funds. Our ending fund balance is well above the 20% target which again provides one-time opportunities for facility upgrade that will continue to directly impact the future success of our program. The 23-24 budget was created using the state of Oregon Governors and Joint Committee on Ways and Means co-chairs proposal of $9.9 billion. By the time the state's budget was finalized, the actual spending bill for education was set at $10.2 billion, which by ending at 51% of the funds being available in the 24-25 fiscal year. Due to the district's continued conservative approach to budgeting, Pleasant Hill School District is well positioned to meet our fiscal responsibilities and priorities for the 24-25 school year. As we enter this new budget cycle, it is crucial to acknowledge the shifts and commitments influencing our fiscal landscape. Factors such as enrollment dynamics, economic projections, and strategic priorities emphasize the need for continued stewardship and forward-thinking investments in our students' future. Enrollment realities and economic outlook. The aftermath of the pandemic continues to impact enrollment projections across the board. Demographic trends coupled with the decline in births indicate a period of adjustment in our K-12 population statewide. Despite these challenges, Pleasant Hill School District remains resilient with our current student population in line with projections. However, we must remain vigilant, particularly in monitoring kindergarten enrollment given the statewide trends. Amidst an economic resurgence, Oregon's revenue forecast presents both opportunities and responsibilities for our district. Increased general fund resources, along with substantial corporate kicker, remain a promising fiscal landscape. As stewards of public funds, we are committed to leveraging these resources effectively to advance our educational mission and strategic plan. Strategic imperatives and budget expectations. Our budget priorities are anchored in a steadfast commitment to educational excellence and community empowerment, building upon strategic initiatives outlined in the district's 2020 strategy development process. We are poised to address critical needs while pursuing transformative projects to enrich our learning environment. The proposed budget maintains current staffing levels to ensure ongoing support for existing programs and systems, with adjustments made to ensure student success. Additionally, the budget allocates funds for essential facility maintenance, safety measures, upgrades to transportation infrastructure, and the expansion of career technical education facilities, including the development of dedicated outdoor manufacturing and worksite space. Furthermore, in response to increasing student activities and community usage, the budget includes provision for an additional maintenance position. With prudent fiscal management and anticipated rollover of staffing, we are well positioned to optimize resources for sustainable impact. The inclusion into the general fund of ESSER-related expenditures further underscores our dedication to meeting the educational needs of all students. Forward momentum. As we navigate change and sustain progress, it is essential to prioritize the following key areas, all of which are addressed in the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Strengthening career technical education pathways, protecting and maintaining class sizes, recruiting and retaining teachers and support staff, maintaining advanced academic offerings, improving support systems for struggling students, maintaining and enhancing district facilities. In closing, let us reaffirm our shared commitment to nurturing the potential of every student, fostering a culture of innovation, and shaping the future where all learners thrive. With gratitude for your partnership, myself, there.
Thank you. Item 4.0, review general fund budget and other budgets. 4.1, allow for questions, email comments. Questions, email comments.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just part of this presentation. It seems to be blocked.
It's not working again.
Correct, we got it working right before you got here. My computer's working, but it's not. Okay. All right, so we've had federal election officers and the budget usage, so We will go through, the slide about the proposed budget and public comment and budget committee questions and comments. We did send out a few flyers and maybe a few, here tonight to try to predict some of the questions that we've had in the past that aren't presented in the slideshow. So hopefully you had a chance to look at that, and if those questions come up, please just let us know. Our next steps after this will be to approve the budget, approve the amount of taxes to be certified, and forward the approved budget to the school board for an additional public hearing. Budget committee considerations is our board mission and district policy, the statutory requirements to approve a balanced budget, the value of a sustainable budget where ongoing obligations are supported by ongoing resources, and the impact of budget decisions on the district's bond rating and ability to meet cash flow needs. This is an overview of our funds. The general fund is the district's general operating fund where most revenues and expenditures occur. The special funds is for grants, student activities, reserves, things that have to be used for a specific purpose. The revenues are for a specific purpose and we have to extend them in those ways. The debt service fund accounts for our repayment of general obligation bonds and the taxes levied to receive the revenue. Our total budget is $30,383,000, up from last year's by $1,800,000. I think this increase is larger than usual. It reflects the movement into the general fund of the ESSER funds have stopped, and so we've moved some of those things into the general fund. So the general fund is seeing more of an increase. The special funds are seeing some decrease, mostly based on that. The overall budget does have some increase, some bigger capital projects that we're working on, investing in facilities, and one of your slides is talking about our plans for those investments. This is the general fund view of district staffing. You'll see those increases in some of those columns are because we had staffing in ESSER funds and funds that we now have moved most of into the general fund. Some of the other changes sometimes in the negative 0.25 FTE in administration is not actually a drop in administrator. It is revising. Some of those went into actually one quarter of a position went into student investment fund. So we move those back and forth so we can get the best use of the special fund money. This is our current year financial projection. It compares what our budget numbers were and what our most recent projection is. The increase in the state school fund is mostly due to our 23-24 budget, assuming a $9.9 billion state school fund, which was still in question at the time of budget, but it did end up at 10.2. So there were some additional dollars there. It was 10.2 for the biennium, so we are still working this year off of 51% of 10.2. The other revenue increase in the other revenue category is mostly due to favorable interest rates and a change in our investment and banking practices. So we brought in quite a bit more interest than we expected. Our audited beginning fund balance was adjusted. It was higher than anticipated. So you're seeing that change going into the new budget. We are projecting a beginning fund balance of over 7 million, higher than we had expected. Our beginning fund was higher, so that will reflect in the ending fund balance. We did make extensive use of some one-time funding offered for the recovery after COVID, and that helped bolster the ending fund balance. We are spending that down some this year. The ending fund balance goal in GFOA reserve target should be about 20%. We are above that. The ending fund balance of 23-24 becomes the ending fund balance for 24-25. We are seeing the end of ESSER funding, And we're spending some on capital improvements. That's where you'll see that, carryovers will go towards in part. Oh my gosh, sure. Sorry. This is a high-level overview of the proposed 24-25 budget. And it shows changes from the 23-24 budget. The general general fund resources are expected to be up by about $1,220,000. Expenditures are budgeted to grow by $1,400,000. Our transfers are expected to increase by $105,000. The largest transfers are in maintenance and capital projects, and they're on page 33 of your budget. Our contingency funds are budgeted at 2% of operating expenditures. So for the 24-25 year, we budgeted $279,000. This leaves an ending fund balance estimated at $5,600,000, which is 41% of total revenues. This is a breakdown of general fund resources. It includes total resources of over $20 million. This chart is on page 20 of your budget document. Description and sources of general fund resources are also included on their page. The largest single source of revenue is state funding, which is determined under the state school fund formula. Property taxes, and to some extent other state school fund sources like the county fund and the common school fund are projected by the district, but they are subtracted from the state school fund formula to determine how much we get in our state school fund grant. The beginning fund balance is based on the latest projection through the 23-24 year. And other revenues include interest earnings, rental income, and student activities. Student activities. This shows our expenditures and reserves by function. So it's kind of by category. And it shows the purpose of the expenditure. Functions serve to establish legal limits for district spending. Once a budget is adopted, the district cannot spend more in each area without first obtaining board approval in the form of a resolution. The proposed general fund budget appropriates $7.69 million for direct instruction, $6.28 million for support services, and $1,125,000 for transfers to reserves. It also designates $279,000 for contingencies. The unappropriated ending fund balance of $5.6 million cannot be spent during the upcoming fiscal year and is reserved for use in future years. Starting on page 25 of your budget document, you can see the proposed expenditures by specific function and how they compare to amounts included in the 23-24 budget. Are there any questions on this? Right, lots of detail here. This is a, it shows our requirements by object, so that's more specific than by function. The function is going to really be more like the department. It's going to be specifically all salaries will be put together, all payroll costs. So it's a specific service or item purchased, and it represents the way we more typically think of and monitor our budget. Staff compensation makes up the greatest portion of the school district's budget, with salary and benefits totaling 50% of our requirements. The balance is distributed among purchase services such as alternative education placement contracts, student transportation, utilities, supplies for schools, offices, and custodial maintenance functions, and other, which includes property and liability insurance and fees. Supply budgets include the per pupil allocation given to the schools to district. Transfers represent moving resources from the general fund to reserves where expenditures for specific purposes is made. The district maintains 7 reserve funds outside the general fund. They were all created with board approval for the specific uses for which they were developed. Reserves in the general fund represent the operating contingency and the unappropriated and fund balance. This is a slide showing the changes And some of the reasons why it changed. So we see that salaries is at 7%. Includes step movement, cost of living increase for eligible staff. The cost of moving some positions into the general fund that were supported by ESSER funds. Technology, K-12 curriculum, high school success coordinator, those were some of the positions that moved. It's an additional 1 FTE in maintenance grounds. Our payroll costs are up $241,000. That's the increase from additional salary and step increases, and then the addition of daily reported benefits and increased substitute. Our purchase services is up 22%, increase in student transportation service costs, increase in cost to provide SLP and psychologist service. That's one, we did the same thing last year. Those are the positions that have been very difficult to fill. So we have them open. We would love to have a person. Right now we're using a service. So it's expensive. Either way, it's expensive. So we do have it budgeted in both places. So when you see that our operating expenses are higher, they're going to be actually less because we're only going to do one or the other, either to purchase the service or hire a person. But we want the flexibility to do both. We know we can arrange a service, but we would really like to have a second member instead. So once again, it's in here and it is expensive. Increase in heating and cooling costs, garbage rates keep going up. Sports are experiencing increase in fees, the teams, and the numbers of officials required. So those are the things that help raise what we spend for services. Supplies and materials, they just general increase in products, some absorption of the ESSER funded software into the general fund. That was a large change. Other objects, quite an increase in our property and liability insurance premiums based on some of the more dramatic things we've had. The ice storms and the fires have affected property taxes. And then the value, property insurance. And the value of our property has also increased with everyone's value of property, but we're paying more on that because of that. Transfers of 105,000. We're investing in our future with some major building improvements. We'll see that in the budget. I'm sorry to reference the page. Contingency is up 28,000 simply because our budget is higher and it's still going to be at 2%. Our unappropriated ending fund balance is up 641%. Once again, 641,000. Leaving us at 41,000, 41% estimate. Other funds, this would be our special funds. They are restricted for specific purposes, grants, student activity, reserve funds. Our preschool and our food service are both operated under special funds. And the information starts on page 61 in your budget document. This is how we are splitting it by function. So instruction is 41% of this. And the doctor knows how those are split up. Debt service fund. This is the budget for revenues and expenditures associated with principal and interest payments on the bonded debt. Primary source of revenues, property taxes, and funds can only be used for debt service on bonds. Under principal and interest payments, you can see the debt service payments are budgeted to increase from $1,650,000 to $1,702,000. $51,000 more this year. I did put a supplemental chart together that shows which that we're paying down at first. We had the two-part bond. So we are almost done paying all the interest for the bonds and that first, the A section of the bond that we moved into the B section. Very soon. This table shows how the debt service levy is put out and how it compares between 23-24 and 24-25. Start with the total principal and interest due during the year and subtract the sum of prior year taxes and interest earnings that you expect to receive during the year to determine the amount of property taxes needed to cover the rest of the payments. We estimate a collection rate and increase the amount of the levy by the amount we don't think you will collect. Tax rate is then calculated by dividing the amount of the levy by the projected assessed value and multiplying by 1,000, since the rate is applied per 1,000 assessed value. In this case, we assumed a 95.7 collection rate and 4% growth in assessed value. Our debt service rate has gone up by 26 cents per 1,000. This slide shows the impact of the changes to the general fund budget on the financial forecast. This will differ from the earlier slide in that here we're showing our projected 23-24 numbers and showing our 24-25 budget with underspending. So if we do budget the underspending, and I'm sorry, this is the wrong slide for that. Let me go to. Well, this does show that our revenues. I'm sorry. The effort is okay. The effect is projected ending fund balance of 56.6% of revenues in the 23-24 year and 41.3% in the 24-25 year. This form will show you the underspending. That's the second monetary line in the second section. I cannot read that. So this is a difference between what we adopted last year and what we have proposed for this year. So the contingency is the underspending. It's not normal for us to use that, but it is normal to include it in the budget just in case it comes up. So this is where we get down to the general fund revenues, the percentage of revenues estimated at 41%. And the annual surplus is over our target by 298,000 for the forecast. Summary: the proposed budget maintains current staffing levels to ensure ongoing focus and support for existing programs and systems, with adjustments made to bolster student success. Additionally, the budget allocates funds for essential facility maintenance, safety measures, upgrades to transportation infrastructure, and the expansion of career and critical education systems. Furthermore, in response to increasing student activities and community facility usage, the budget includes provision for an additional maintenance position. We appreciate your involvement and your time. Should there be questions that we're unable to address tonight, we will provide them to you as soon as possible. So certainly let us know if you have any questions. There is no requirement for the budget committee to have more than one meeting. We could decide to approve the budget tonight, or we can reconvene for a second budget committee meeting on June 3rd. And if we were unsatisfied at that point, we could do one on June 10th as well. Currently, we are expecting to have our budget hearing and board meeting on the 17th. And our contact information is there. So if you have any questions now, I certainly will do my best, right?
Okay, I'll break gas. How is the budget supporting career and technical education, advancing the academic offerings?
I think how's it advancing?
So how's the budget supporting career and technical education and advancing the academic offerings? So how is the budget tied into key points within your institution?
So in this next year, we're looking at increasing, so our Steve Smith does a small housing unit with the kids, and so we're looking at building him out a more dedicated space. So the outside of the kitchen area, going up into where his shop area is, there's a green grass area that's in there right now. So the plan is to actually concrete that and then build a covered space for them, bring in electric so they can place it with buildings. If you're familiar with that area, just outside the middle shop, we're also got some nutrition funds that we're having spent from the federal government, otherwise we don't lose those. And so we're redoing our drop-off area for the trucks, so that a place to build back in, so we've done some excavation, move that out, and then we'll pave that area. And at the time, it's security as well, we are redoing some fencing in that area, so that we don't have a gate that's constantly open and closed for kids going in and out of the building, that side of the building. So that's the specific thing we're going to proceed to be in this next year.
We're still, I'm working on an electrical overhaul too, for welding, so got some new equipment, we need to update our services for that, that's almost a project.
The electrical was in the previous year's budget. This was the original doing that shop. Electrical. As was the fourth rebuild, previous budget.
And I guess touching again on your message there, the protecting and maintaining class sizes, that mostly just that bump for all features of that.
It is, so it's rolling over the staff, maintaining tracks, and
Not necessarily adding, but just maintaining. Yeah,
correct. And then same with the ESSER, so some of our positions were ESSER funded. So we rolled those positions into the different funds, we got the needs to pay for it, which will keep the systems going as well. A lot of that will, I don't want to say it has a direct effect of lessening burden on teaching staff, but it can when your systems are operating well. So,
Barry, you mentioned the purchase services were up substantially. Can you help me just understand, just because the percentage jumps out? The 22 point whatever percent. But the listed items is not clear to me where specifically you're seeing such a large jump.
I would say probably, that could be, when you look at expenditures by object. Might help to. Oh, I'm sorry, that does not drop it down into detail at that level. I would say, transportation is definitely an increase, special ed transportation. There's more, some of our kids, there's just less options for placements, and we need to maybe speak to that. I think that we're taking kids a little further away than we would like to on the special placements. We're paying more for their tuition, we're paying more for their transportation. So that affects a kind of a big portion of transportation, as well as just the fact that it goes up every year. Purchase services in terms of the psychology services and the SLP services are quite expensive. I think in general, maintenance, anytime you have service calls out, they're more expensive. So I think it's not any one area. It's
some of our special ed transportation went up pretty dramatically, because we're out of somewhat rural. So there was a new bill introduced, Senate Bill 819, that required all students to have instructional time that would match in their home school. So students that need to go out to another service provider outside the district. So all of those institutions had to take the entire package in place. So I think it's a ESD service, and needed to consider which of the districts maybe had the highest amount of minutes offering for student minutes, and that's what they had to set the bar at. So essentially what ends up happening is, our right times end up increasing the amount of singular transportation that we arrive for one student versus being able to put students together, about one off to this building, one off to that building, you know, their minutes might be different, all that in the way. So we increased our transportation costs quite a bit.
Well, we used to be able to get, we get 4 hour walks and transportation, we used to be able to get 2 trips in 4 hours, and we can't, so that has doubled us in place.
Is there any added payroll expense with some of our 9-month employees now being able to get unemployment?
That is an increase that you will see in the reserve fund, because our fund 271 is an employment reserve. So unemployment fees are paid out of that. And we have estimated what the potential cost is of that. And try to set that fund up to absorb it. We don't know how many people are gonna take advantage of that, but potentially it could be over 400,000. That's within the special funds, not the general fund, but yeah. We did. I think we're seeing an increase in sub costs too, because the seems like the Oregon paid leave is making the people's time off 12 weeks. Well, it's kind of pointing at 12 weeks as a norm, and so we are seeing that.
Any questions, items for Sherry, Jim? Anything else?
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so given the current climate in K-12, where you're seeing overall reduction in enrollment statewide, how are you guys planning for that into the future, given that over the course of every year, we've been at 1,000 projected enrollment, never reaching 1,000 at any point in time I've been here. So how are you planning for that moving forward?
I mean, we project our roll forward of students, and then we indicate how many spaces are available for inter-district transfers, and we take a portion of that, and that has led us to be looking at that 1,000. And this year we weren't quite there, and part of the problem this year is that the requests for inter-district transfers didn't quite line up with places where we had space, so we did have to decline more than we had hoped, just because the numbers didn't land in the actual grades where we had space. And that could happen again. Just seems like we've been close enough to the 1,000, and I think the way we budget, we haven't seen any issues and fallen short, but every year we look at it and new input.
Yeah, continuing through a conservative budgeting approach, planning for any fund balances that are higher than normal. That's in the savings account built up. I've noticed we've added a land use attorney because of the Jasper Natron development that is starting to come out. All of that land and that projected housing is in Pleasant Hill School District boundary area. But we will need to continue to watch our kindergarten numbers and make a decision whether or not we continue to keep class sizes where they are, as if our kindergartners do not have any difficulty with that. This is where feedback from the community is really helpful, because you end up, say, with 70 kindergartners, 75 on class, excuse me, per Catholic section of 25 or 75. You get 60 that come in, you're looking at 2 sections of 30, and now you've got 5 and 6 year olds in quite large class sizes. So these are the business involvements that instead of doing combining the K-1 class, and doing combined class, it's a lot more work for the teachers who are trying to represent the expansion. But short quick answer is conservative approach. We've got vision, whether it's norms.
On that note, generally speaking, if we follow, well, I think for the summer, this, if we follow over and kind of look at the trajectory of deficits, there's the surpluses. We're essentially being asked to approve what on paper is a $1.8 million deficit. And I understand that it's not quite that clear, but can you just elaborate? I'm picking on you by looking at you, Jim, so I guess it's your question. Can you elaborate a little bit? You're just an eye contact. Elaborate a little bit on that and talk about whether that is sustainable.
In some things, when you're looking at that, you say it's not like an exactly one. We've got some positions that are double funded. I think speech and language pathologist and this school psychologist, an example. That's a little bit $200,000 in the area. But just we're only going to spend it in the area. So let's research that.
Well, I think that, the way we use our reserves, we're investing quite a bit in reserves the last few years because we've had that high ending fund balance. I think at any time we would be looking at, not having a 20% ending fund balance. I think that's when you start rearranging, I mean, prior to that, of course, but I mean, we have a lot of ending fund balance now, so we are investing in one-time expenses in some cases. And we have to, and every year we look at what we can afford to put into reserves and what we can do with it. So I think that we have ways to restrict the budget if we need to. And hopefully the last thing we would have to do is look at staff unless we have a serious deficit of students. Or,
You can comment on their questions.
Which wants to have made this huge deficit, that's a lot of money. And then I guess I question like, what are some of those things that you'd be looking at cutting? If they become that, like, what is the priority to make up those funds? Or is there a priority yet?
I mean, you should probably answer that. I mean, I think like it'll change because you take a new look at it based on your circumstances.
We would have to face a similar cliff as we did back. 2008. I should say 13, it has been a month ago. Where basically the governor came on, there's a state budget as well. We've got such, I mean, the almost 50% income balance is really never heard of, especially 2 years in a row, and then we get twisting money away. We have to do that. So there are many years out. Of course, getting greatly affected in doing that. They're staffing. We were primarily staffing. So we have to make a big cut. And start to look really seriously at numbers to where are your numbers and where are your priorities? I think if the elementary from what I've heard in the second year, has been a priority as far as keeping class sizes, management. We've been having programs and classes, especially around the high school, the community feedback that we've got through that 2020 proposed fees are important in this a lot. So some of the special classes start to go away. Our secondary, especially the high school, has got a lot of singleton classes, AP classes, and CTE classes. That there's programs that you could go to if you actually had to go there. Those have been things that my understanding of the community has held on to tightly, and if they hold on to these things tightly, it's been a really conservative funding approach. Rather than one-time balances. To get there and maintain this.
would it be a mischaracterization then to do what I'm seeing from 2022 to 2023 school year to now we're essentially approving a 40% increase budget, and I understand that the original amount is resulting in a large surplus. Now, and I'm hearing you say we're investing what could swing that number and make it look so big, but for my benefit, would you be able to comment on that as well? And is that sustainable?
On the increase. Well, we're seeing a number of things, I think, happening simultaneously. So one thing is we said last year, so in the second part of the biennium, we get typically more money, 51% in the second part of the biennium. We budgeted the first half last year, it's the 9.9 from the state, when in reality it came to 10.2. So we're seeing this increase in revenues coming by that sense. We've also got a really solid, consistent revenue from property taxes. So people in Pleasant Hill have, I'm not saying high property tax in comparison to town, but they pay their property tax and get the property tax. So that revenue as well. On top of, I think, those things, having the ESSER funds, even though they're going all the way, I think it's keep the momentum going. So I would say something we think that we've done. So I think we're actually investing in our schools, not in infrastructure. We look around the state, I think we follow Portland Public, Salem most recently. It was a little bit of a sticker shock, I think, when we had our teachers, our license, like it was in the past, in this last sentence, it was I think it was 42 from one of the teachers that go, the teachers' perspective as far as how long they were, which it was the largest, like one-time quarter that they've ever seen, that we should have ever seen. Even given that, we still have not necessarily caught up to surrounding areas. That's what we'll be listening to right now. So we had a whack of things, say, bargaining theirs, as far as trying to catch that. Which is that kind of.
It does, I mean, if you want, that almost makes me ask the question, is it conservative enough? And I understand that we're starting from a place that has gotten us to a place where we can have these discussions, and so I'm not meaning that adversarial, it's just a question. It's like, so if this is the writing on the wall, because a couple of years ago, 40% lower, some of that investment that we'd love to maintain, should we? And I think you and I've come to respect the budget process a lot more, right? But I think it's a fair question. It's like, if push comes to shove, it's always nice to be up a little bit. That's
No, we are still, extremely conservative. Actually,
Yes, I feel like it's heavy capital improvements too, that are one time, right? Yeah, you know, things that we're building, so that way we can maintain it, and it won't have the same cost. That's my understanding. A lot of that plus the increase in the gift.
we've drawn the reserve account for the church buildings, like to the point that we will, if this is approved, estimate is between 500 and 550,000 for the church. We will have 500,000 units for it going forward, so anything down next year, big forward. So again, can't think of the community support to replace the track as well, doing that from outside resources, the open district to us and what we'll start project for fixing, you know, the bishop, that's for your high school and district fixing a lot for what's the bishop and next year for the buildings next year projects for the transportation, especially for that, you know, see back service road with us as well. I think there's good, I feel like they're good investments.
If you look at just the deficit in the operating expenditures, which is less, has less optional items in it than the transfers, the reserve accounts. I mean, it's 600,000, but we have about 240,000. That is that double budget SLP and school psychologists, and then the over 200,000 is also in that contingency, and when you budget the way we do. It would be really pretty, it would take an intense action to actually need to use that contingency, so it's there, but I don't expect us to actually operate at a deficit, probably at all. And I think one of the things, it's weird because we do have a conservative budget, we do also budget enough room that we can do what we need to do, and so we tend to underspend, we just underspend, so if the time comes to tighten it up, it's pretty easy to do, it's put savings on expenditures. And being a small district, it's pretty easy to control that, like every purchase order in the district comes across my desk, so nobody can really get out there and overspend. Because it's easy to keep, the two buildings in one small district, it's easy to watch those numbers, so I think we will, if there's problems, we'll see them come. And be able to manage that problem.
Last year would seem to be a good example of that projected 1.4 deficit, now you're, I'm sorry, your budget is 1.4 deficit, now you're projecting a slight surplus. So that is reassuring to know, just because you have it in there doesn't mean you think it's carte blanche to go, maybe you rent a car house. Do you feel that way, Jim?
No, that's to go see what we're doing, because you're right, in the sense that money can read away really fast. Can I repeat what I think I heard you say and see if I got it right?
Yeah.
There's effectively of the 1.8 million deficit, 600 of it is operating, which genius math that I am, tells me 1.2 million is one-time expenses. Capital improvements, is that right?
A lot of that is capital improvements. I mean, you do have to look at 400,000 we put into the insurance reserve and instructional materials reserve. So
Yeah.
those reserves, I mean, some of those are not optional, but a lot of the campus improvements, and we've been doing a lot this year, and we're going to do a lot next year, and those are going to be for time.
And of the 600,000 you called an operating deficit, 200 was from double budgeting, which I don't quite understand, but I'll just take, I know what that means. I don't know why to do it. And another 200 was approximately contingency. So effectively, the deficit budget operating is $200,000.
Close, yeah.
Close. That makes me feel a little better.
So the double budgeting is, if we were to hire an actual school psychologist and speech and language pathologist to work on site, they would be covered out of our salaries and benefits. Because we have had to contract out the extended professional services. We still have those jobs open, knowing that Portland Public is cutting, Salem is cutting. I've reached out to the superintendent in Salem to pass on the openings we have, especially those hard to fill openings. With the idea and hope that we can actually get somebody hired to work in the district, in which case we wouldn't spend professional services. We're stretching the time on that as well. Actually, yeah. A good example, I think, so our elementary elevator broke down this year. Worked to fix it as quickly as possible. They recommended that we actually go through a full upgrade of it. We fixed the part that needed to, of course, then once we fix that, there's other things as well. It's just under 150,000 for the entire project. In the previous district, in the elevator would have probably been that because we have reserves where we have things.
Questions?
The Natron development. You had said that is currently in the district? It is. Okay.
The one it is, yeah.
All the way to its edge, so to the park?
No, so you know the power plot where the power lines go up. It kind of makes it sort of higher, as the power lines are coming out, if I remember right, the boundary kind of goes off towards the right, so it doesn't follow much straight up. Goes off the right a bit. And that should. Actually, talking to the development, guy that's doing development, the builder, okay, we're talking years now, you're so says that in terms of. Yeah. But I still. Caught and something. Up there is harsh.
You think that would stay that way, or do you think that would change if sprinklers did something? Because that was the original thing that I thought was sprinklers in another school.
So, yeah, so the other part, the sports park, Springfield owns that area right there. So where Courts Park is, that's Springfield School District property that, Pacific landowners, Steve Rossbaum, I think it's the landowner. In the park there, that park will be part of the school.
Elementary, middle school, they talked about taking a long time.
They did, but I started working in Springfield in '98. At that point in time, they had land out by Bob Arts.
Yep.
That was meant for us. And that was at least 30 years ago.
Thanks for the reminder.
While they plan that far out, things just don't always go. We're still a decade probably or more if they need to get that piece of land going. The utility rights, if you follow, but it's have sued each other a couple of times in all of that area.
Because you got EPUD in the, just not the end, you got sub too.
Yeah.
Same area.
I believe that the builder is in their interest to get the housing closer to what they see as a municipality, which would be Springfield. We all know living out here, however, but that might not be where we want to shoot the center kids. Other way, you want to continue right to that spot and continue to follow where it goes.
A big deal.
Eventually. Yeah. Our, so in topic of enrollment as well, our enrollment, about 25% of it is family waivers. And so we run this precarious piece of building small community rural. A lot of our families that may have grown up in Pleasant Hill, moved away, can't afford to move back, go to Lowell, Crestwell, Springfield, Eugene, and bring visit. We have one time that some of the kids that did walk away. But we've got big programs too.
But we're also turning people away currently too. Right, and if enrollment is dropping in-house, in district, we can take in more transfers.
The big question of that is, what would that do to, how much money would that generate for us to be able to expand?
Yeah, we
Get into all that tax revenue.
okay. So in about January, February is when I did a recommendation for as far as class size. That's right before we open up the boundary process. And we use that process with the board and projections. So obviously it's pretty exactly what they're.
If we're running up against that limit of that, the small school funding, right? And we're trying to stay within, yeah, right?
What is the next level? So if we don't qualify for small school, what? We go over 1,000 students, what happens?
Leave the grant for STEAM.
Well, the limit is 350 in 1912. That's what designates us as a small school, small high school. There's two ways that it gets funded. It gets funded through our weighted ADM, which means you're gonna be able to point per actual ADM. It gets added in and gives us just more money in our regular state school fund. And then there's a separate item, which is called the small school placements. So you can go down, there's a remote, there's one more smaller than 350, which is for remote small school. But you're general after that, and the grant part is maybe around 60,000. And then the other part is probably worth well over 100,000, so we'd be looking at a couple of $1,000 drop. And so that's why if you do over 350, you don't want to go over by 10, you want to go over by, you know, so, and then our building couldn't handle us going over by 100, so I mean, it just makes sense to try to maintain that.
Any other questions, members of the budget committee on the board? Right. Then item 5.0, future budget meeting date for Surrey Board and Budget Committee meeting, June 3rd, 2024, 7 p.m. Pleasant Community Center. Budget committee meeting, if needed, June 10th, 2024, 7 p.m. Pleasant Hill Community Center. And budget hearing and board meeting, June 17th, 2024, 7 p.m. Pleasant Hill Community Center. Item 6.0, any other outstanding issues?
I mean, I just wanna raise a question, I mean, since there are very limited questions tonight. With the June 3rd, are we gonna have more questions, or do we wanna spend more time on the budget? So I just wanna be very clear on that, I mean. Everyone's time, if everyone's really comfortable, that'd be fine, we'd be forward with a motion for approving the budget. Unless there's actually any questions that need to be answered on June 3rd. That's typically how this process works, right? Is we ask for questions to be answered, we come back, they answer the questions, and then we go and approve it. We're very limited questions tonight, so.
Now, my question would be, are there any members of the budget committee who felt like they haven't had a chance to review? Yes, technically, board members haven't had a chance to review enough or have any outstanding questions. I agree.
I would be prepared to approve it tonight, if that's what you're saying. Nobody has to be, but I'm not.
I've only had it for a few days, so yeah, I'd like a couple weeks to dive into it a little more.
Yeah,
I think I'd like the same, just a little time to go over it a little bit more. Really fine. I mean, right now, I don't feel like I have a lot of questions, but I've only been able to kind of generally go over it a little quick.
Sure.
Then forward any questions that you have to Jim or I, and we will disperse the answers out to everyone in case that's any more questions. We'll come. And better informed for the next meeting.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Jim. No other items then? Some not, budget committee.
What do they usually give that out? You couldn't tell. Thank you again, gentlemen. Have a nice evening. We're going to convene the regular school board meeting. Brings us to 11.0 board communication. 4.0 other business. All right, 13.0 next meeting, as was stated, our next meeting is the board and budget committee meeting June 3rd, 7 p.m. right here in the community center, also online.